On this episode, we talk to the president of the National Museum Volunteers.
So if you want to know more about a fascinating way to get a crash course in Thai culture and history, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgenson, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001, decided that pit stains were much less annoying than frozen boogers, and decided to stay.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract almost 20 years ago, fell in love with my Thai dates, bringing a friend along, and I never left.
Do you think anyone's ever gone out with a girl on a date and then actually ended up with her friend that she brought?
It must have happened because it's a very common thing, especially when you first start dating, for Thai women to bring a friend with them. And the weird thing is they usually don't tell you.
Yeah, it's disorienting as hell when you first get here. Anyway,
that's right.
We're out on a tangent again.
All right, before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and among other things, we did a follow-up on our privacy show last week where we discussed the Thai Chana app for checking into stores, as well as the saga of Kru Wang, the woman who got mocked online for her video from the Ministry of Education to show off Thailand's remote learning capabilities, and what it says about cyberbullying in Thai culture. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Right on. All right. Well, before we jump into it, a couple of quick notes. We want to mention quickly that the Pat Pong Museum, if you listen to episode 17 of season 4 with our guest Michael Messner, who opened the Pat Pong Museum, that is back open now after being shut down for a while. So Michael wanted us to let everyone know, if you're interested in this really actually surprisingly cool, interesting, and insightful museum to the Pat Pong industry and its history, then the museum is open again. So if
cool. Thumbs up on the Pat Pong Museum.
It's fun. And if you're down that area, want something cool to see, check it out. And also, just a quick show note. Did you know, Ed, we should have done this last week actually, but it was 10 years ago, a little bit over 10 years ago, that the first episode of the Bangkok Podcast premiered.
Is that correct? You know, if you would have given me that as trivia, I probably would not have gotten that right.
Really? Oh, damn, I ruined it. But it was, the first episode that me and Tony did back in 2010 went up on May 17th, 2010.
You're a lifer then. If you do something for a decade, then, you're a senior.
I guess, isn't that what, you have to become a professional? You have to do 500 hours of it or something? What's that rule?
I think it's 10,000.
10,000?
Yeah.
Shit. Season 20 before I become a professional podcaster. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy to think 10 years ago. And, we were literally recording in a little room in someone's office in the back. And we had those little, needlepoint things that grandmothers do. They stretch the cloth over the circle and they close the circle and then they...
Oh, yeah.
Right? We had those with pantyhose stretched over them, attached to coat hangers in front of our microphone as popper stoppers. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
We are a little bit more sophisticated these days, but
not that much, actually.
Not that much, no. But anyway, 10 years goes by in a flash. So shout out to Tony if you're listening out there, buddy. And here we are in 2020. And here's to 10 more.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, on this episode, we are excited to have on the show a gentleman by the name of Dr. Peter Hufschmid-Hirschbuehl, who works very closely with the National Museum in Bangkok. Now, most of us know about the list of jobs that foreigners are not allowed to do in Thailand, which includes working as a tour guide. But there is a small but interesting loophole in this. It is possible to work as a tour guide, but only if you belong to the National Museum Volunteers group, which Peter is a president of. The NMV, as it's called, gives members a crash course in Thai history, the workings of the National Museum in Bangkok, and trains them to lead groups of tourists in English, French, German, and Japanese around the National Museum. So I've had several friends over the years who have done this. A special shout out to our buddy, one of our listeners, Kieran, and my friend Marin, who lives back in the States now, who probably doesn't listen to the show. But they've all said that it is an incredible way to get to know Thailand in a way that few people do. Now, we should note this interview with Peter happened about 3 months ago, just as the corona situation was starting to get serious. So it's been on ice for a while. But as of 22 May, which was a few days ago as this show goes out, museums in Thailand are open again. So I chatted with Peter, and he said that the NMV is not offering tours right now due to social distancing regulations, but they are ready to go. And as soon as things get back to normal, it will be business as usual. So let's learn more about the NMV in my interview with Dr. Peter. All right, well, we are sitting down here in a corner of a little cafe in a mall, so you might hear some coffee being made in the background or some people talking. That's just part of the on-the-ground realities of the Bangkok podcast. But we're sitting down here with Peter. Peter, welcome to the Bangkok podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming on. Now, I've wanted to get you on at the suggestion of one of our listeners, our buddy Kieran. And he is a member of the organization that you lead. And I've heard about this organization for a long time, and it's always sounded really, really interesting to me. So I'm really happy that you're here to tell us about it. And this is the National Museum Volunteers. And this offers foreigners, into one of the things it does is offers foreigners in Bangkok the opportunity to be trained as tour guides to lead visitors around the National Museum in Bangkok. So can you talk a little bit about the history of the organization and what it does and how it works?
The organization was founded in 1969 by a member of the royal family.
Okay.
This woman was herself, I believe, an archaeologist, and she was highly interested in Thai culture. And she had seen such a system of foreigners guiding tourists in a national museum in Singapore.
Okay.
In Singapore. And she established the same kind of organization in 1969 here in Bangkok. So we were actually founded by a member of the Thai royal family.
Okay.
The organization developed, and as you already said, we're guiding tourists, visitors in this national museum here in Bangkok. There are actually 42 national museums in Thailand, but the one in Bangkok is the main museum. It's run by the Department of Fine Arts, which is a part of the Ministry of Culture of Thailand. We are guiding currently in 4 languages: English, German, French, and Japanese. We had Chinese about 30 years ago, but for reasons that I'm not aware of, the Chinese tours were stopped.
Okay.
We had the Prime Minister visiting us, Prayut, last year. And he asked us to start Chinese tours again.
Oh, really? On the special suggestion of the PM?
Yes,
wow.
He wanted us to do that. We are a bit reluctant because the museum is quite small and the Chinese tours tend to be quite big.
Yeah.
That is the problem. And a good size for a group to be led through the museum is about 10 people, and were we to welcome Chinese, we would have groups of between 50 and 100, and the museum is just too small.
It's chaos.
It's chaos. Now, the organization itself is about 240 members. Of those 240 members, about 50 are active guides. Now, we are training our guides ourselves, meaning we have guiding workshops every year in those 4 languages. They last about 10 to 12 weeks.
Oh, wow.
With
okay.
1 or 2 sessions per week, 1 or 2 half days per week. And at the end, you can choose at the end of these 10 weeks, you can choose whether you want to go on and become an active guide. And then you will have another 4 weeks of training. The point is this: you can also just join one of those workshops if you're interested in Thai culture, and it's one of the best places to get an introduction into Thai culture.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to be an active guide to be a member of our volunteer group. You can also just be a member without guiding, or, as I said, you can guide. Now, the workshops are a bit different from language group to language group. The Japanese have their own system. It takes about 3 years in the Japanese group before you're allowed to lead a group through the whole museum.
Wow, 3 years.
Yes. We have a lot of Japanese visitors. As you know, the Japanese community is quite big here in Bangkok. There are about 150,000 Japanese living in Bangkok.
All right.
And the wives of these men who work here are expected to become members of the National Museum volunteers.
Really?
Yes.
There's a lot of trailing spouses in the Japanese community. The men come here and work for Honda or one of the car production plants, and the wife is a very sort of 1950s Americana view of things, where the wife stays home and takes care of the kid, and the husband goes to work.
But they don't take men into the Japanese guiding group.
Really? Only women?
It's only women.
Wow.
While as in the French, the German, and the English group, you have mostly women, but also men. But I have to say, most of our members are women, and it's kind of an aberration that I am the president, because basically it should be a woman and not the man. But due to some unforeseen conditions, I ended up being the president, but I will step down rather soon.
Okay, all right. Well, it's a unique organization, because one of the proscribed, that is prohibited industries that foreigners are not allowed to do in Thailand, is be a tour guide. Only Thais can be a tour guide. You have to be registered with a TAT, but that's not the case for the museum volunteers. Foreigners can be tour guides, albeit only at the museum, but it's sort of like this one exception to this broad sweeping rule.
Yeah, that's true. We only guide at the museum, and that's one of the difficult parts of handling our guides, is really telling them you're not allowed to guide outside the museum. You're not allowed to wear your badge outside the museum.
Oh, interesting.
And the reason why this came about is simply because the founder of the group was a member of the royal family, and she wanted it to be like that, and so nobody's opposed.
And it was done.
It was done. Yeah, that is the reason that we still exist.
Right.
We don't know how long we will be existing, but right now we are there, and our guiding is quite successful. We have, in the last 50 years, literally guided more than 100,000 people through the museum. Now,
wow.
Compared to the number of tourists that arrive in Thailand, this is ridiculously small, but it's really one of the places where you get a qualified introduction into the culture of Thailand if you come to Thailand for touristic reasons and you're interested at the cultural aspect. You will find a lot of very interesting information in our tours.
Right. It's also really interesting to me as an expat, as a long-term expat in Bangkok, because it's one of the, it seems to me, one of the more accessible ways to get a really, really deep, personal, insightful education into Thai language, or not necessarily language, but culture and history, which is hard for a lot of expats, because unless you go to the libraries, or, really force yourselves to get over the language barrier, like there's not a lot of really easy ways for you to, short of just reading translations of books and stuff, but going to a museum and seeing the history with your own eyes and being educated on it through your organization is a really unique opportunity. So what kind of training does a guide need to do?
Well, we will train the guides in the history of Thailand, obviously, and in the art of Thailand. These are the two main things that we do. Now, this museum is a world-class museum. There's no doubt. Some of the artifacts that you can see there are really, really very important also for the culture of the whole world.
Yeah.
The problem with the museum is it's really centered on Buddhism, and it's centered on the Thai culture. You won't find any artifacts of the Thai people living in the south of Thailand.
Oh, really?
Nothing. You will not find any artifacts which represent the Chinese roots of the Thai people. And you will not see any artifacts of the mountain people in the north of Thailand.
Mostly just central Thailand then.
Yeah. So
Wow.
this is really a Buddhist-centered museum. And apart from Buddhism, you will also see some Hindu artifacts, which
course.
are quite important.
Right.
So this aspect of the Thai culture is represented, and obviously there is a very narrow connection between Buddhism and Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, we can show a huge part of this culture, but some things we have to leave out because they're simply not represented in that museum.
Interesting. Yeah, we've done shows in the past on the Brahmin histories and the priests that are involved in royal, consecration ceremonies and coronation ceremonies and things like that. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and they have been around for almost 1,000 years.
Yeah,
They already were at the Sukhothai court, and it's always the same families. It's 15 families who, through 1,000 years, have dealt with the Thai or the Siam or the Sukhothai royals.
Wow. I've been a tour guide in the past, and it is not easy. You're always on. Your brain has to be turned on. You have to be alert, aware. You have to be reciting the script. You have to be dealing with questions. You have to be thinking about what's coming up next. So are there people that go through this course and you just they want to be a guide, but you say, yeah, this is not for you. You're not really guide material.
Well, we wouldn't say that.
No.
We wouldn't say that. Obviously, when they finish their course, we will test them. That's an agreement that we have with the museum. The directors of the museum, the last ones we had, also the current one, they're really keen on hearing from us that the guides are well trained. This is one of the problems of the Thais. They don't speak these languages very easy. English is one thing, but French and German, that's rare here.
Yeah.
So they want to be sure that we test the guides. And if the guides do not pass the final test, we don't let them guide.
Okay, fair enough. So there is a test, yeah. If I wanted to become a guide, what would I do? What would the process be like? How long would it take? When would it happen?
Well, in case of the English language, and I assume you would be guiding in English.
Yes, my Canadian French is not up to snuff.
We would have a course starting in autumn. You will be invited to join that course. The course will run until March 2021, where we will ask you at the end of that first part of the course, would you like to go on and become a guide? And then you would do another month, 6 weeks of training. The training sessions twice a week and 4 hours, mornings. Once you have gone through that, we will go into the museum, look at artifacts. Each trainee would have to give short presentations of the main artifacts.
Interesting.
We also provide teaching material in form of books We have our own library with about 1,000 books. And we have a digital library which is only accessible for members, which has about 2 million pages of material about Thai and Hindu culture. So we are well equipped with teaching materials.
Right. It's kind of a barrier to entry, though, because I work full-time, so you would need to be available during the weekdays.
Yes, we guide on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 in the morning at the museum. First come, first serve basis, and it's free. We also don't take tips. We don't accept any money. It's 90-minute tours. If you go on a French tour, it's a bit longer because the French have a special relation with Southeast Asia. Furthermore, the museum was founded in about 1920 by one of the Thai kings, Rama VI. But he had a French consultant, Professor Jorgenson, who is a very important figure in the archaeology of Southeast Asia, because he was also the first one who systematically described the inscriptions from Angkor Wat.
Oh, right.
So the French also, with their past history, they're very close still to Southeast Asia, and they like to have longer tours. 2-hour tours, 3-hour tours.
So they've got a special connection. That's interesting. Wow. I've known some people. My friend Marin used to be a member of this organization, and we talked about our buddy Kieran. And I've only ever heard great things about how it provides an opportunity for foreigners just to get a really unique crash course in Thai history. I wish I could do it. I'm stuck at my office.
Yeah, it is true. We can only do it. We can only run it in the mornings, and we can also only guide in the mornings. And that's just because most of our guides are women. They have children. They're here as expats, and it's easier for them to do this job in the morning. Also, the tourists come. They want to be led around in the mornings. I think we wouldn't be lucky if we were to try to guide later in the day, or even try to discuss with the museum whether they could keep it open in the evenings. Sometimes that wouldn't work out, we believe.
Interesting logistics. Have you ever thought about expanding the program to other museums? Has it been that successful that you can think about that?
No. It's enough to be in the National Museum here in Bangkok, and I think it wouldn't go down well, especially with the Thai tour guides. The Thai tour guides are not really fan of the National Museum volunteers, and we don't want to compete against the Thai tour guides.
Interesting.
When we go out and we do city walks and such things, if we go to temples, which are outside the museum, even us as National Museum volunteer group will take a local guide to lead us through a temple, just because we really need to be careful and not competing.
It is a sensitive area, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this story that happened a few weeks back about a Thai woman who met a Farang guy at the Wat Arun and was giving him a tour. And then some cop there stopped her and fined her because she was an unlicensed tour guide and she was giving him information. And I think there's probably more to the story than was reported. The rumor is they met on Tinder, so who knows what's going on there. But the point is that non-Thais giving information about Thailand in an official capacity to visitors, or even Thais who are not registered doing the same thing, is a sensitive issue.
It is very sensitive. We had the patron of our National Museum volunteers was a grandchild of Rama V. And he was showing a group of National Museums something in the palace. in the palace, and he got into troubles.
Really?
Even being still of royal rank, he got into troubles because he was guiding people without having a Thai license.
Wow.
So they're really strict on that.
Yeah,
and
I guess so.
we want to respect that. That is very important to us, that we respect the Thai rules.
Of course. Especially being associated with an official national or institution like this. Yeah. Well, I full disclosure, I've never been to the National Museum. I'm ashamed.
Don't be ashamed.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. I should go. I should have been many times by now. But I would love to do something like this. But like I said, I'm stuck in my office. But for our listeners out there, if you are available during the week and you don't have a place where you need to be during the day, I highly recommend it. I've only ever heard great things, and it's a great way to get a really unique personal insights into Thai history and culture and really understand the history of the place from the ground up,
May I add that we have a website? The address is mynmv.com. You find all the information you need there, and you can apply for membership if you want to.
Right. Cool. All right. Anything else we should know? We'll put that address in our show notes. Check it out. Head to the National Museum. I'm certainly going to really try to make my way down there. I promise. Okay. It's only taken me 20 years, so I'll get around to it, I swear. But Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I look forward to seeing you down at the museum.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, dude, all I got to say is that type of thing is exactly what I need to do. To become a tour guide like this. After living here so long, there's a lot of stuff I've done, but I've done very little volunteering. I've got basic knowledge of Thai history, but I'd love to bone up on it. And my university is really close to the National Museum, and I think I went one time, maybe 10 years ago.
Really? Yeah, I've never been. This is ridiculous.
I've been once. Yeah, so I'm. When they restart doing tours, I think I'm going to look into this. I might do it.
It'd be great to do. And it's funny. I'm a member of the Siam Society. They've got this great library on Asok, which has all these old books and stuff. And as foreigners here, I think we get a bit of an in-depth look into Thai history just because it's new and it's interesting, and we want to learn a bit about where we're living.
Right.
But, if you get a more advanced look into it, man, it's fascinating. There's so much cool stuff
for sure
to learn about. So something like this is a great opportunity. And if you have the resources and the time, then I highly recommend it. I've never done it myself, but like I said, I've got friends who have, and they have all said it's just a fantastic way to get a really good inside track into Thai history and stuff.
Cool. Well, you sold me, man. I'm in.
Yeah, we're both in. And now I just need to find the time. And many thanks to Peter for coming down and talking to me. Like I said, that was 3 months ago when things were not so serious. So hopefully things will get back on track really soon. Thanks, Peter. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. This week, Ed, it's all you.
All right, so Greg, you are familiar with the kind of menthol inhaler, kind of sniffer things quite popular in Thailand?
Yeah, called Yadom.
Yeah. So in case our listeners aren't familiar, these are just tubes. So it's not an inhaler like you breathe in like an asthma thing. Instead, it's just like a menthol tube that you sniff. And I guess it's because the city smells bad, but also could potentially clear your nose. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's kind of like the Thai version of Vicks Vapo Rub.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here's my question. Doesn't happen a lot, but I do see it occasionally. Let's say you're sitting on the SkyTrain. Someone next to you takes out one of these sniffer things. They sniff it, and then they stick it in their nose and leave it there. So it's just hanging.
Just some dude with his
plastic tube.
Yeah, he's like a nostril cyborg. He's got an add-on, right?
That's right. So sometimes, again, to our listeners, if you haven't seen this, sometimes they just leave it hanging in there.
Yeah, they just stick it up their nostril and let it go. It's funny. I would say I think it looks goofy and silly, and I think it's slightly what's the word? Not low class is wrong. It just seems a bit gauche to use it. But you know what? I love it. I think it's quirky and funny, and it's definitely not something you see back home. It's not offensive. It doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
So
it's a very uniquely Thai thing. Like I've just never seen that before.
Yeah. I would say I love it because it's so quirky and weird.
Okay.
You just look at it and kind of giggle and go, "Oh man, Thailand, I love you."
I think I'm just to live with. Like to me, every time I see it, I'm just like, dude, just take it out of your nose. Don't leave it hanging there. Like I understand why people use it. Like I have no problem with people using it. It's funny because I remember I went through this phase where I was using those things because sometimes the street smells bad. So it's kind of cool to take some out of your pocket and just get like a hit of clean air. But then I don't know. I never stuck with it. But I never left it hanging in my nose as I walked down the street.
Yeah, well, I mean, different strokes, I guess. I love it. I think it's just like I said. You look at it and go, "Oh, Thailand."
All right. I'm a live with.
Good one.
All right. Final thanks to our patrons who help keep the show ad-free. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Right on. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube if you want. You can chat with us online or even reach out to me directly on Twitter where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you back here next week.
Absolutely.
So you remember I was complaining about how my air conditioner wasn't working a while ago? Like the air conditioner guy came the other day and cleaned all the air conditioners in the place. Now it's too cold.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
but you can adjust it up, right?
It is. It's like 20, it's like whatever it is, a few more degrees colder than it was, and the fan's on the lowest setting.
Oh, really?
I'm still sleeping now. I'm like, the cover's pulled over me. I'm like, oh my God. I have to relearn how to modulate my air conditioner settings for my condo.